Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet.
Bonjour, you're watching Women's Wrestling Talk. My name is TK Trinidad, aka the Canadian Assassin, and I have an amazing show with an amazing guest. We have our discussion topics, all that good stuff. But I know guys are not here for me. You're here for my guest. She is the first ever pregnant WWE champion, the first lady of pro wrestling, now the board of directors for ROH. Please welcome Maria Kanellis-Bennett.
Hello.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm wonderful.
So, this is like just a very random question. I love your hair.
Thank you.
Your hair regimen, like how do you? It's on point every time I see you.
I don't wash it.
What do you do?
Bye, honey. I'll see you. I don't wash it. I'm very cautious about overdoing it with my hair, so I don't wash it too much. I don't blow dry it. I curl it and then I keep it like that for a few days, and I don't overstyle it. It's very Greek hair. That's like super strong and like thick. So I'm blessed with that. But I also get very terrified that it's all going to fall out because when I was wrestling, I did lose a ton of hair. So now I just don't do a whole lot with it.
Well, it looks absolutely gorgeous.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So let's get into your current position, the board of directors for ROH. I've been watching the women's wrestling on Wednesdays for ROH, and I absolutely love what Ring of Honor is doing. Now, for the people who don't get a chance to watch it, because there's a lot of wrestling every day, it's a lot. It's almost like a full-time job. Who should we look out for the Ring of Honor, the Women of Honor? Who's the person that you're like, you guys might not know her now, but you're going to?
So I feel like every week someone else is coming to mind. But for sure, right out the gate, Trish Adora,
yes,
Roxy, Miranda Alays, Maserati, who you're going to see on Women's Division Wednesday. Those are four that have really put the work in. And they're newer comers to the industry. They've really made names for themselves during this crazy past year, which is like COVID and not a lot of shows, but they've been able to keep themselves relevant. So those are four names right out the gate. But of course, Ring of Honor has its veterans of Sumi Sakai, Mandy Leone, and also Angelina Love. And I've noticed with the three of them, you bring in new competitors and all of a sudden they step up their game like so much. So, these are women that, yes, they're veterans in the industry, but they aren't afraid of trying something new or facing someone new. So it is going to be a very interesting tournament.
Yes, this is true. So has the date been announced for the tournament yet or no?
No,
so the date hasn't.
I wish I could tell you when it's going to start, but what I can say is we will be filming it in July. Okay.
So after the women have their matches on Wednesday, you are giving out the ticket to gold. And it's either the women who are competing or, last week was somebody who, has been a vet in the game. So how do you go about choosing these, like who? I mean, you're almost like Willy Wonka. So how do you choose who gets this golden ticket?
I wish I could also have like the whole chocolate factory. That would be amazing.
Oh my gosh, that would be awesome.
Secretly have a chocolate factory. I always wanted like a chocolate slide. Anyways, I think it's great for your skin. But so I do a lot of research. I am a bona fide stalker at this point when it comes to finding women to be in this tournament. Some of them I already knew. Some of them that, you will see in the coming weeks, some you don't, or maybe you don't know as well. I look for women that are trying to do it different, that have built a fan base because of their talent, because of their tenacity, different styles of wrestling, because that's what Ring of Honor is about. It's about athleticism and it's about sport. At the end of the day, Ring of Honor will always be about sport. And so these women have to not only be great within the ring, but they also have to have something outside the ring as well. It's a team environment in Ring of Honor. It's always had such a great backstage feel. So when we are crowning a women's champion, we are crowning an entire team. Yes, there will be one champion, but that champ only gets there by defeating a lot of great women.
I mean, the lineup thus far, it feels like Ring of Honor for the women's division did like a 180. Like it's amazing. I absolutely love it. I mean, the show is based off of, talking about women in wrestling. So this is just amazing to see. Now, with that being in mind, who came up with the concept of, doing this, women's matches on Wednesday leading up to the championship?
So, we started filming these matches in January. So at first, we didn't know where they were going to go. But Ring of Honor had already had some women's content on Wednesday, and this was before pandemic, pre-pandemic. And so we brought that back in a much stronger way. So the concept was already kind of there, but Ring of Honor was totally behind it. They thought it was great. The Zoom calls I have loved doing because they don't know what's happening. And like, there's a couple coming up that, they're straight up like, oh no, this is going to be out there. Like they just,
okay.
Great. It's so much fun. It's my favorite thing that I do. But yeah, I mean, it was kind of a collaborative experience of bringing the show together.
Now, you've been in the game for a long time, 20 plus years. So this is kind of a layered question. One, what would you tell your younger self?
Okay.
Getting into the industry? And then two, what advice do you give to wrestlers now getting into the industry?
Yeah, I started 17 years ago. I was 22. So when I was 22, I was literally fearless. I thought that, I was never going to get older. Wrinkles, please. That's never going to happen to me. These boobs will always be that perky, all of that stuff. The advice that I would tell myself, would actually have nothing to do with the industry. It would just have to do with the fact that just remember that even when it's at its toughest, to enjoy yourself. Like just soak it all in. I have been blessed to like to listen to what people have to say and like what they, their stories and all that. But I've not always been so kind with myself in the fact that I'm like, oh, I should be, working out more. I should be doing this or I should be doing that. I would tell myself, no, enjoy the tiramisu, enjoy the, just enjoy yourself. Because it does all of a sudden slip away in the sense that like, oh, all those years are gone now. Okay, cool. The girls nowadays, what I would tell them is stop trying to be someone else. Be the very best you. So whatever that is, don't try and fit into a certain number or fit into a certain like genre. Just be you, because being someone else literally just makes you feel conflicted. It's like you're trying to be someone else and then you're a character in the ring and then you're like do something that feels good in your body and in your soul.
I like it. I mean, that's just apply that to life. Stamp it. Now, in the last 5 years, women's wrestling, and you could speak more to this, but since I've been covering the last 5 years, so much has changed in a positive direction as far as women's wrestling. Now, is there anything that's, like a last thing that women, I want to say I don't wrestle, but female wrestlers like we can evolve to? Any other things where you're like, man, we're almost there, but if we can where do you want us? Where do you want female wrestlers to kind of end up?
I want them to have more well-rounded characters. I want to know more than just one thing. I want to know about what your family is like, or what motivates you, and I don't want to just see one thing all the time on screen, and that's that I'm really tough. Like, I want more well-rounded characters. I want there to be some internal conflict sometimes when it comes to these all these different storylines that are going on with women's wrestlers. So I think that's the next step. And of course, there's also the fact that I think just as much money should be put towards women's wrestling, marketing women's wrestling as the men's wrestling. So if we can think on the business side, let's put as much money into marketing women's wrestling as we do the men.
Yeah, there was I'm sure it came from a bigger interview, but there's a clip that I stumbled upon where you were pretty much talking about, and I've asked every person who's been involved in WWE as far as women's evolution, Mae Young, I absolutely loved it. But you've been very vocal in saying that, there are people in places that could make these decisions, and you gave really great examples of like, you can partner the wrestlers up with these companies and do all like stuff where it's like, I can like, yes, let's do this. Why? I mean, obviously you if you knew, then it'd be happening. But why do you think evolution hasn't happened like again? And why
So I was told it's never happening again. So and that was from Mark Carano, that it will never happen again. And I mean, now I'm sure, because there is such a buzz about it, I'm sure they're going to try and find a way of doing it again. But as far as I knew when I left the company, evolution was never happening again. And I think the reason why they did it the first time was more of a PR stunt than it was a real action. A real like statement about women in wrestling. It was more for PR. And I think until that changes, until it's not like, oh, we got the one women's match on the show, because we have to. And it becomes more like, yeah, of course there's going to be women's wrestling on the show. Like, yes, there will be this many men's matches and this many women's matches. Why? Because, yes, it should be equal. Right. Until that changes, you won't see another evolution, at least truly. Because if you look at the budget for the women's evolution pay-per-view compared to another pay-per-view that's a regular pay-per-view, it's not the same amount. They weren't.
Oh, you can tell. Yeah.
They weren't marketing it the same way. So, I mean, you're missing out on so many opportunities because of that. And, I don't know why that is. It confuses me. It really does. Because why wouldn't you want to support the women in the company like you do the men?
Right. And it's not even to say that the women aren't amazing and, they can't be featured on Self or Vogue or like, I don't.
Part of that, though, is the way that you tell the story. Mm-hmm. And I feel as if, and I'm sure this, people will feel differently about it, but women in wrestling shouldn't be looked at like a carnival attraction or circus show. They are talented, well-taught, well-educated women that have had to have integrity and dedication and the motivation to keep getting up every single morning 2 hours before the dudes have to put on hair and makeup and all of this stuff.
That part, yeah.
To show up at an interview at 5 a.m. when they've been up since 3, or 2:30, which I used to have to do because his hair is so big. But, they have fought so hard to get to where they are with so many different kinds of adversities along the way. If you're just telling the story of, oh, they're angry with the other girl. Well, that's not a story.
That part.
Okay, yes, of course. That is what they're doing on television. Tell me the real story, and that's what will get you in mainstream. Not some, yes, we are telling stories on television, But there's also the backstory of how they got there. The Rock always talks about $7, $7. Everybody knows he had $7 in his pocket. Why don't I know that about any of the girls? I know a little bit about Natty. I know a lot of bit about the girls that we're bringing in for Women's Division Wednesday. But like, I want to know more. I want to know like what got them there? Was it their mom? Was it their dad? Was it, something happened with their brother or their sister? I want to know their story and how that can influence other women that maybe aren't in the same industry, but who can relate to that story and having a dream. So yeah, that's what I think is the reason why women haven't been able to cross over into as many magazines as some of the men, or as many news outlets as the men. I mean, way back when, I was one of the first ones to do CNN and be on Fox News and do all of these different news shows, like the Today Show and all of that, before a lot of the women had even done it. And now I feel like they've taken a step back again. And it's like, no, I want the realness back out there.
Well, kind of piggybacking on that. So with those opportunities, was that because of the promotion that you're with, or did you have your own PR, or did you just go out and get those opportunities yourself?
So it was a little bit of both. There were people that were asking for me, especially after Celebrity Apprentice. Which Celebrity Apprentice I got because I walked up to Trump and I was like, I would like to be on Celebrity Apprentice. And you want to be on my show, Celebrity? Yes, I would. I like making money for charity. So that one was from me of getting on Celebrity Apprentice. But some of the other ones came up because I had done Celebrity Apprentice, or because way back when I did Outback Jack, when reality shows were not as common as they are today. So, and then Playboy too. When I did my Playboy, that was another big moment for WWE. And so they ended up sending me out to all these different news outlets.
So I'm sensing a theme for you guys who are not picking it up. You like multiple streams of income, and you are very busy. So you're a mom, you're a wife, you have a design company, you're doing talent for ROH. First question, do you sleep?
I do. I sleep really well now. My kids sleep through the night. So that is yay win. My daughter didn't sleep through the night until she was over 2 years old. And I was like, this is horrifying. I can't do this anymore. Lady, go to bed. It was insane. My son, probably 8 months old, doesn't wake up. And now he's 15 months old and he sleeps 10 hours a night. It's glorious. I do actually sleep. My schedule is weird. Some days it's crazy, absolute insanity. Right now, my brother's kids are downstairs because my dad had to go to get surgery. And I have all this craziness that is happening today that, other days I'll be like, I know I'm supposed to be doing something, but I'm not doing. So let's try something else. And with COVID and stuff, I've put my event planning business on the back burner because there was just not a lot of events last year. So I've been able to focus more on the women's division than I would have if I also had this event planning business. So I will get back to it, but in a very different way. I think I'm going to go back to giving away flower arrangements to brides that can't afford them. So once I'm able to do that again, I'm sure things will get even busier.
I love it. Now, is your family multiple streams of income? You stay there. There are some people, I'm just going to say WWE, just as for, that they diversify themselves. They're not only a wrestler, they do X, Y, and Z, so that if the day comes where they either decide to go or they let go, it's okay, I'm good. Was that always is that a family thing that your family teach you to hustle like that? How did you get to this mentality?
Yeah. So my father is 100% Greek male, he was the king of the castle, but I was the oldest and just so happened to be a daughter. But I went with him to the bank. I went with him to the junkyard. I went with him when he would have to go and, didn't matter. He owned apartment buildings at one point. He fixes up cars still to this day and sells them. He is incredibly good at restoring old cars. So he has, I think, 5 or 6 Mopars right now that he fixes. He's also a really good woodworker. So he made the table that my sister had for her wedding, like the table that all of the family was sitting at. Like,
wow.
It's insane. My dad has always had multiple sources of income. And so I think it's just kind of in me. Plus, on the other side, my mom is a hoarder, which has made me a hoarder, which is great for my event business. But so I just go to like auctions and to estate sales and all of that stuff. So I've always dabbled, but like definitely from my father.
Well, shout out to your dad for being. Sounds like he needs to get his own show. I think I might watch it. Like
So my brother is actually he's gonna start doing a Mopar show about like 1970s Mopars, and I told him, I was like, you gotta have Dad on. He'll just be so interesting.
He sounds interesting. Now, there was another interview that you did where you talked about Paul Heyman being a huge influence in your career. Mm-hmm. Is there any advice that he gave to you that, like, to this day, like, you remember, like, man, he said that one sentence or that one conversation really, just really inspired me?
So I don't know if it was one conversation or one, but he always had a way of finding out which direction you really wanted to go into, even though, and it might have been something that was like a secret to the world. But he always had a way of getting those things out of you, of like, he knew years ago that I wanted to do more behind the scenes in wrestling, and that I loved being able to write and to book and that kind of stuff. So he would allow me to come and see what the show was going to be for Ohio Valley Wrestling, which was like a huge influence on me. And like at the time I was dating Punk. So like Punk and then Paul being there and like really being able to learn the industry. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, those were the days that definitely had a lot of influence on me.
Nice. And now, as far as who would be on your female wrestler Mount Rushmore?
Ooh, I don't know if I want to say, because I don't want to give too much away with our tournament, but I do have to say that there's a couple girls that are in the tournament that would definitely be on my Mount Rushmore.
Okay. So let me rephrase the question. So, okay, so if you can have several Mount Rushmores.
Oh, okay.
Who would be on your Mount Rushmore in your era?
Oh, in my era.
Yeah.
Okay, so Victoria, Molly Holly, Lita, and Trish.
Okay. But you didn't include yourself.
No, because I would never be on it. Never. I wrestling was not my thing.
Okay. And so who would be on the future Mount Rushmore? Because you have to like do something in order to kind of be on it. But like, the guy's there and he's starting to chisel like the faces, but he has like, he has the list, but it's not fully formed yet. So who would be on that Mount Rushmore?
All right. So there's 4 names that I think that people should watch out for.
Okay.
Maybe more, but so Willow, Roxy, Miranda Olaze, Trish Adora.
Boom. Okay, I like it.
I think those 4 are and then there's 2 more that I would put on it, but let's just keep it at those 4. Yeah.
Okay. Now, there are some story in previous interviews. You mentioned some storylines that WWE didn't use, and you feel like it would have been, beneficial. Are there any? Because I'm sensing also too that you're just a creative. Like you always have ideas. Are there any stories that you wish that, like, man, like not the obvious ones, but you might have pitched or you even thought about, like, this is gonna be amazing, that just never, made it for whatever reason?
I wanted to be anti-women's wrestling.
Mm.
Yeah. So me and Paige talked about this because Paige was managing and I wanted to manage too. And women's wrestlers. I mean, I love, managing the men, but I wanted to manage some women's wrestlers, and I wanted to be anti-women's wrestling, and I wanted to come out on stage day after WrestleMania or like at WrestleMania and say, nobody wants to see women's wrestling. And I take all that heat in and like, cause you could build so much because so by the time I came back after having my daughter, I could feel like the energy cooling off of Evolution. And like, I just felt like to be in that spot to say no one wants to see women's wrestling would have brought so much like people being like, no, I want to see women's wrestling. And like, there would have just been so much back and forth. And to have a woman do that, I feel like it would have been really strong.
No, and it would have been.
I talked to Vince about it, and Vince said it was too close to to women's evolution and all this. And I was like, no, but that's why we have to do it, because we have to keep it fresh. And he didn't like it. And that's not to say it won't ever happen. But like, I just thought that I wanted to be that villain of no, because I'm so passionate about women's wrestling that I wanted to hear all these very powerful women in wrestling come back at me saying why it's important and why they love it so much. But didn't happen. Sad.
Oh my gosh. You got me, like, gave me goosebumps. Like, that needs that folks,
you need to imagine a woman coming out and be like, no one wants to see this.
Yeah, and then the fact that it's just kind of like you've been in the business, you're going like all these things, and then you saying that, like, I love it.
It pisses me off me saying it. and then I think is like, that's what I think is fun, and to say like, oh, you guys should just go back to having popcorn matches and like, ooh, like, I mean, eventually someone have to punch me in the face, which would have been awesome. But didn't happen.
Deserved.
But of course, because I experienced that feeling. I experienced those matches. I was in the diva search and I had people saying those things to me. And I remember how fired up it made me to fight against that system, that to throw it back in people's face. I feel like people would fight so hard.
I mean, we'll see. We have time. There's time somewhere in some space, in an alternate universe, maybe. Now, speaking of alternate universes, or possibly currently, is there a match with somebody that you want to have that you haven't had a match with already?
I would have loved to wrestle Becky. I think Becky embodies everything that women in wrestling want to be at this point. She's strong in her beliefs. She's strong in the ring, and she never questions herself, like when she's out there. Deanna has that quality too, where they're solid in the ring. It's like they are one with the ring. And I love that. So just to have had a match with her would have been incredible. Paige is another one. I know that one can't happen, but like, she's another one that like, she just, all right, I'm pale. I'm doing it. Like everyone else is wearing spray tan and she's just like, nah, I don't think so. Like I just, yes.
Yeah.
and then one of the new girls, just because she's so fun, Willow. Like she's just so fun to like be around, and she's just so good in the ring, and like, yeah.
I like it. Last question before we hit the hot tags. I love seeing great relationships and great marriages, and obviously, you know, life, there's ups and downs, but I mean, the love is real. So what's your advice to, you know, to people who are getting married, who are in relationships? Just, you know, how do you make it work? Because I've heard also in other interviews that you talk about being a wife and you talk about being a mother. Like some people talk about, oh yeah, I'm a mom or I'm this, but they never include being a wife. And that's, you know, that's important too. That's also a job. So what's your advice?
So my parents are still married after 40 years. My grandparents, my papuli and my yaya, they were together until they passed away. Well, until my papuli passed away last year. I've seen really great marriages that they argue and they fight and they, you know, just pick at each other and all this stuff. From a place of, yes, I'm angry right now, but I still love you. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm really mad and you're driving me insane and I kind of want to, you know, punch you in the face, but I still love you and we're going to figure this out. Yeah, I think that's kind of what I've tried to bring into my marriage is at the end of the day, we're still a team. And whether or not we're upset with each other, if someone else tries to come in and fight our family, we're still on a team. So like we still got each other. So I think that's the biggest thing is like, still having each other's back, even when things are not the best at home. We go on trips though too. Like we're going on one coming up here in a few weeks where we're taking 3 days. We're going to Florida and we're just going to be children and go to like Universal Studios and drink all the drinks and eat all the pizza and remember who we are. And we sometimes when we can't get too far away, we'll go to the city, go up to Chicago and, you know, just spend the night up there. Because when you have kids, you start to lose yourself. You're like, wait, come back. Where am I? Oh yeah. That's what sometimes I put makeup on. I'm like, oh, there she is. Okay. I remember. Okay. Good. It's the same thing. And like a marriage is like still trying to get back to who you are and remembering why you got with that person. And what you talked about in those early days. Yes, those things change constantly. They might, the world might change, like having a pandemic and, but you have to still have some common goals and be a team.
There it is. I love it. I love just seeing. It's an example. So I love it. Keep doing what you're doing. But you're welcome. We're going to get into Rapid Hot Tags. Rapid Hot Tags is brought to you by Goli Nutrition, the world's first apple cider vinegar. Use the code TK Trinidad 5 to get your discount today. The first question is, do you prefer working out at home or at the gym?
Peloton. But if I also love my trainer. I cannot work out by myself anymore.
Nice. I've forgotten how. I do love the Peloton as well. Mm-hmm. If you could wake up tomorrow having gained one quality or ability, what would it be? So what would be your superpower?
More time. I just would want to live longer. Like, give me more years. There's more degrees that I want. There's more countries I want to go and like learn their languages. More time.
I like it. If you were stuck on an island and could only bring one album, what would you bring?
One album. Okay. Maybe Eric Church. I don't know. Oh no, Pink. But any of the Pink albums. I don't know. This is really hard. I feel as if I'm telling a little bit about my soul or something, and I'm afraid. But maybe Pink, especially like her last 2 albums. I connect so much with being a mother and being a wife and also trying to still be a rock star. And so what? I'm still a rock star blasts in my car sometimes. It is the song that I would love to have to represent the women's division.
Okay. And last question, if you were able to live to the age of 90 and retain either the body or mind of a 30-year-old for the last 60 years of your life, which one would you choose?
The body. I like the mind. I want my memories. I want to live that life. I don't want to like forget at the end, yeah, definitely want all that experience. The body, I would like to be able to use all that experience with my body.
There you go. There it is. Now, last question before we get out of here. For my folks who haven't been watching or haven't been hip to the women's division for Ring of Honor, why should they watch?
Because it is the very best wrestlers in every style of wrestling. Women's Division Wednesday will give you just a little snippet of what is to come in the women's division. These women are incredible. They're incredible in their own right, whether they're in Ring of Honor or any other company. They're just all incredible women. And to see them face each other, these matchups that we've been able to have just been awesome. So watch Women's Division Wednesday to get ready for the women's tournament.
And folks, let me just say, there's a lot of wrestling out there, but the Women's Division Wednesday is just enough where it's not like you have to prepare a whole day for it. It's just enough where you can watch it, you can enjoy it, and you can also do other things. Yes. So please go and watch it. The matches are incredible. So that's my PSA as well. For my folks who are not following you yet, which they should, because you just amazing. Where can they follow you?
On Twitter, it's Maria L. Kanellis. On Instagram, it's Maria Kanellis. My Facebook has been hacked or something as of late, so I don't have a Facebook right now. Those 2 places are the best. You can also watch me on Ring of Honor and on Ring of Honor's YouTube.
There it is. Thank you so much for coming on. I look forward to amazing things.
Thank you.
And that women's championship.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh. So that was Maria Kanellis-Bennett. She's amazing. I mean, I feel like I could have talked to her for another hour, which, just about anything. So I love talking to people like that. But, we have to continue on with the show a little bit before we get out of here. So the question is, we have a discussion topic that we always talk about at the end of the show. Either myself talking to you guys who are listening or, co-host. My question is, who would be in your faction? So who would be in my faction? I feel like I need to get a little bit of water. For folks who have been following me and watching me talk about wrestling, I've always been preaching the Simone faction, where I'm a part of it. I don't know what I'd be doing because obviously I don't wrestle, but that would be my faction. So, the Usos, Naomi, Tamina, obviously Roman Reigns, and I would be somewhere in that faction. I don't know what I'd be doing. So that's my I guess my dream faction. In my real faction, if I can actually put it together and, somebody would actually say yes. Ooh, man, I wrote the question. I don't even know if I can answer it. Gosh. And now I'm going to do an Emily and deviate and have 2 different answers. So I would have a Canadian faction. So my Canadian faction would obviously be Natalya, Chelsea Green, Taylor Wilde. Gosh, I'm missing somebody, but I would have a Canadian faction. I feel like there should be, I feel like there should be a faction of people you didn't know who you didn't know they were Canadian because we blend in sometimes. And now it's a takeover. So you think all these Canadians are super nice and, they say hi and please and thank you. But what you didn't know is that they're planning on taking over, whatever company. So I would want to be part of that Canadian faction, and I would want to be the manager. So that would be one faction. The other faction, think somebody else on the show had said this. So the other faction would be, and I would be a different type of manager for each. So for the Canadian faction, I would be like, I'm helping to like put, my crew in the best positions to get the right matches, stuff like that. But, behind the scenes, setting things up for the ultimate takeover. For this other faction, I would be more of a business person, almost like MVP. So in this faction, I would have Naomi, Sasha Banks, So Naomi, Sasha Banks, Big Swole. Oh my gosh, there's like so many. I should be able to answer my own questions. So Naomi, Sasha Banks, Big Swole, and oh man. This is hard, folks. So Naomi, Sasha Banks, Big Swole, Faye Jackson, Willow Nightingale. I want to say Bianca, but I feel like Bianca she would turn on the faction quickly, meaning that she's not about this team thing. And I think that's it. I think we'll leave it at that. Trisha Dora. I feel like that's a well-rounded faction. But what I'd be doing with this faction is that I would be securing deals. Like, here you guys go. I got you this, I got you into this movie. Or here you guys go. I got you guys appearance on this TV show. Or here you guys go. You are now on cereal boxes. Like, that would be, I want to be like more of the business manager, agent type for that particular faction. So let me know. That was like a lie. And I wrote the question, folks. So let me know in the comments who would be in your faction and what role would you play in that faction. So now you can also even if you don't wrestle, you can just say you're going to be a wrestler as well. And who would be your manager. So in the comments, please let me know below who would be in your faction. Thank you to ROH. Thank you to Maria for hopping on the show. It was amazing. I am so looking forward to this championship. It's the people that they've had on so far, the matches have been great. So if you haven't watched, go on their YouTube page. Make sure you check it out. If you guys have no idea what this show is about, Women's Wrestling Talk, make sure you go to all our social media platforms at Women's Wrestling Talk. We have a website, womenswrestlingtalkpod.com. Now I have to go back. Now for our social media, Women's Wrestling Talk Pod on all social media platforms. Go to our website at Women's Wrestling. I should know this by now. Instagram, Twitter, all that good stuff. WW Talk Pod. Our website, www.talkpod.com. It's been like a year, folks. I should know this, but c'est la vie. Now, my name is TK Trinidad. You can follow me on everything at TK Trinidad. I thank you guys so much for joining. Thank you guys so much for answering those questions below, because make sure you do that. Other than that, till next time, great interviews. Don't forget, we have our pet, Pro Wrestling Pets comes out every other week. Huge announcements coming. Other than that, till next time, ciao.